So now I have an experiment that I'm setting up for you, and it's going to show you the difference between how the stomach reacts with food and how the small intestine reacts with food. Remember that the stomach is very acidic, and we say that this small intestine is basic. So what I have for you is some aspirin, just a medication. This is an aspirin with no coating on it at all. This is the aspirin that I can touch with my fingers. We call that non-coated or uncoated aspirin. And then I have two different kinds of coated aspirins here. One has brownish, kind of a reddish-brownish rust color coating on it, and this one has a yellowish coating on it. The aspirin is inside. I'm not touching the medication, it's just a coating on the outside. So here are my three medications, and I'm going to put them all into the stomach, which is acidic, and for this we're using a vinegar solution because it has a pH on the acidic side. So here we go. Here is the coated aspirin. No, I'm sorry, that's the uncoated aspirin. And then this is one of the coated aspirins. So the white one is uncoated, the yellow one is coated. And you can see what's happening here immediately with the white. I'm going to bring this up closer. This doesn't always focus real well when I move it closer. But you see the difference between the coated and the uncoated aspirin? The stomach will break up the uncoated aspirin very quickly. The acid, however, does not react with the coating on the yellow tablet. So what I'm going to do here is take out the yellow. This is the one with the coating on it. And I'm going to put it into the small intestine, which would be our basic solution. When I drop it in here, we're going to leave it here for a minute. Immediately you see all of the bubbling that's happening. We didn't have the bubbles on the yellow coated aspirin here a minute ago. I don't know if I can get that to focus very well. We're going to leave that sit here for a second. I have the second one, which is the rust colored, because I wanted to show you a little bit better when I tried this earlier. The coloring in this one is easier to see. So again, this is another coated aspirin, a different type, but it has the coating on the outside of it that is fairly well protected from being in the stomach. Okay, so again, nothing happening, no bubbles. Again, you see this pile of uncoated aspirin over here. I'm going to take out this coated one from the stomach, and I'm going to move it over here to the basic small intestine, and immediately we're seeing a reaction happen. You can see the red falling apart very quickly. The yellow, you can kind of see the halo around the yellow there. Not nearly as fast as what happened to the uncoated aspirin in the stomach. However, neither one of them reacted in the stomach, and they both are falling apart very quickly over here in the small intestine. So this is an example of what happens in the digestive system. When food goes into the stomach, it typically gets broken down very quickly, but then if it passes to the small intestine, it further breaks down. Some substances do not break down in the stomach, whereas they do in the small intestine, and vice versa. If I had another uncoated tablet and I put it in the small intestine, what do you suppose would happen? I'm going to ask that again and remind you what we just saw. We put a coated and an uncoated here in the stomach. This is what happened to the uncoated. We were able to pick up the coated aspirin and move it over here to the small intestine. And as soon as we did, we got a reaction. If we took an uncoated aspirin and we put it here, what do you suppose would happen to that uncoated aspirin in the small intestine? So you can think about that. You can have a discussion about that. But I want to just clear something up here in case you do have questions about the medicine itself. Although the medicine isn't really the focus of this lesson, it's the digestive system and the way the parts work and how they're very different because they have different jobs. You may have questions about, so why would we take a coated versus an uncoated aspirin? And the answer is this, just briefly, without a whole lot of details. Obviously, if you take a coated aspirin, it's going to go through your stomach and pass into the small intestine before it even starts to dissolve. The coating has to come off in order for the medicine to come out to get through to your system. That could take about 3 hours after you take the tablet. If you need fast relief, which one do you think you should take? The coated or the uncoated? we had a much faster reaction here in the stomach where it was acidic. It broke down very, very quickly and would be able to be absorbed in the body here. However, the negative effect of that is that you have a mucus layer inside your stomach that protects your walls from the acid that's squirted onto the food. Now, you see what the acid can do to food. Imagine what it could do to the soft tissues of your stomach. The acid is there, or the mucus layer is there to protect your stomach lining from the acid. When you take an uncoated aspirin and it dissolves in the stomach that way, it stops the mucus from being produced in the stomach. Therefore, you don't have protection on the walls of your stomach and you can get stomach upset. Some people who take medicine don't like to take medicine because they feel bad for another reason after taking it. One symptom goes away while they get another symptom. If that's the case with you or with anybody with that condition, then you would want to take a coated aspirin so that it passes through your stomach lining does not get compromised, and it dissolves in the small intestine where all food should get absorbed by the body, and then it does its job from there. But it does take longer.